Hi, and welcome to the Brisbane Professionals Podcast. This is a podcast brought to you by SMS Law, going through the legal secrets that will benefit you and your clients, as well as having a little bit of fun as we go. This podcast is designed to educate you on number one, complicated legal terms that we will explain in an easy to understand manner. Two, to understand why you do things from a legal perspective in your business. And three, to help you develop a plan for the future success of your business. Our mission is to help empower small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time that it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. This podcast is all about empowering you and your business with knowledge and tools to ensure that that doesn't happen to you or to your clients. Let's begin, shall we?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Brisbane Professionals Podcast. My name is Craig Mason. I'm from SMS Law. And the other gentleman that you might be able to see on the screen, you can't hear him because he's on mute, but when he turns off mute, he will say hello to all the kind viewers and listeners.
Hello to all the kind viewers and listeners. Hope you're having a great day.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Jeremy. All right. Today, we wanted to talk about licensing, not about your driver's license. This is about licensing your intellectual property. So if you tuned into the last show, we were talking about franchising. This is an alternative, I guess, potentially to a franchise. So Jeremy, what is the benefit of a license?
Yeah, so really what we're talking about here is licensing your intellectual property to someone else so they can use that intellectual property. And what people often do is they will license their logo or their business name to someone else to use as their business. And so that's why people do it. And you know, when would it benefit a business? It wouldn't benefit every business. It would benefit certain times when you might have a brand that you want to allow other people to operate without going down the franchise route. And I'll talk about the difference between those two in a bit later. But the big thing here is that it's really around the businesses that want to license their intellectual property have no control over the other business and just want to allow someone else to use the name. So if it's not a name that you're using on a regular basis, or it's not a major business, then you might want to license your intellectual property. But really the time that you would want to do it is if you want to allow someone to use your name that's not a franchise. But before I go into that difference, do you want to explain what the benefits and pitfalls are of licensing intellectual property, Craig?
Yeah, so the types of benefits are, it's probably a little bit cheaper and easier to do, I guess, than say a franchise model. And flowing from that, you don't need to worry about the franchising code of conduct as well, which can be quite onerous. In terms of pitfalls, there's a loss of control there. It's lower risk than say a franchise, but so lower return in that sense would be one of the pitfalls as well. But yeah, there's cheaper, easier, not as much compliance, I think is probably the best way of summarising the license. And then other than those differences, Jeremy, what's the difference between licensing and franchising?
So the big difference is the level of control that you can have over the business and the other business in particular. So when you're licensing intellectual property, you can't really have any control over the way that the business operates. Otherwise, it's a franchise. So a franchise is a regulated business. There's the franchising code of conduct in Australia that you've got to make sure you comply with it. And that document changes all the time. So you've got to make sure that you're constantly getting advice around that. So the big difference is control. If you're just going to license your intellectual property without any sort of control over the way that they operate the business, then that can be a license. But most people will, if you're going to let someone use your brand, will want to have some sort of control. So that's a franchise. So and with the franchise, as we've said in previous episodes, you've got to have a disclosure statement, you've got to have a fairly rigorous document, and you've got to comply with the franchising code of conduct. So that's the main difference between the two of those, Craig. So how should people get started and when should they seek legal advice?
Yeah, be seeking legal advice about the actual license agreement and also about your intellectual property that you're thinking of licensing. So making sure that you've got all checks and measures in place there. So pretty early on again would be the best time to do it. And in terms of how to get started, it really goes back to the license agreement and having one of those drafted. We wouldn't suggest you do any handshake type agreements with this sort of stuff. You definitely want a license agreement in place where you're getting the other party to sign on it, and then it's not all one-sided to you, but it gives an overview of the sorts of things that everyone's agreeing to, so everyone's on the same page. So pretty early on. All right, Jeremy, you want anything else to add on licensing for today's show?
No, I think it's just very important that people get legal advice on this, because there is that distinction between licenses and franchises, and you do not want to fall foul of the franchising code of conduct.
No, absolutely. That's probably the biggest message and the thing that we have to talk about every single time someone mentions franchises or licensing. So definitely get the advice on that so you don't fall foul. All right, that's it for us for today. Thank you for joining us. If you would like to rate and review the podcast, please do so. All reviews are welcomed. Please like us on Facebook, that's SMS Law. Follow us on Twitter or search for us on LinkedIn and connect through that platform. We will see you all next time.